Hi, my name's Al Swettenham. Welcome to this series on making trap music in Reason 7. I've tried to make this series in a way that literally all you need to follow along with what I'm doing is a copy of Reason 7. So I'm not using any refills apart from the Reason Factory soundbank and the orchestra refill which come with Reason 7. I'm not using any of the various rack extensions plugins that you can buy on the Propellerhead's website, although there are some really good ones. I'm only using the devices that come with Reason, and I've tried really hard to use as few extra samples that aren't in the Reason Factory soundbank as possible. There are a few, there's one or two when I wanted to just kind of bring in vocals and stuff, but the vast majority of all the samples that I'm using in this series of videos come from the default factory sound library that comes with Reason 7. And that includes all the drum hits as well, by the way. Anyway, without further ado, let's have a listen to the sort of thing you're going to be making. You certainly don't have to have much prior knowledge of Reason in order to follow along with these tutorials, but having said that, this isn't like a Reason Explained series, so I'm not necessarily going to go into really extensive detail on every device I use, because that would just take too long. Most of the things I'm doing can be done with previous versions of Reason, probably going back as far as like Reason 4 or 5. But having said that, this is making trap in Reason 7, so I am going to be taking advantage of some of the new features that are offered in version 7. Even many of those things, though, can be done in like a more roundabout way using earlier versions. I'm presuming that if you're watching this, you already have kind of some idea in your mind of what you think trap music is. If you don't know what trap is, it's kind of a tricky thing to pin down. People have written really long articles and really long blog posts just sort of trying to define exactly what trap is. But kind of broadly speaking, it's kind of a production style that was pioneered by like southern hip-hop producers in the early to mid 2000s. And I'd say it was probably most kind of clearly defined by Lex Luger, who produced tracks like Rick Ross, BMF, and like Kanye West and Jay-Z, H.A.M. And more recently, all those kind of trap production techniques have kind of found their way into like dance and electronic music. So it's kind of evolved into a genre that places kind of less emphasis on like the vocals and rapping and stuff, and made it more into a kind of a club music, but more like dubstep. Some people refer to this whole new wave of trap music as being like trap step or trap style or trap wave or whatever. I just want to talk really briefly about my settings, just to kind of get the boring stuff out of the way now. First of all, you'll notice that my default setup is very, very basic. It's pretty much just an empty rack, but if I hit this Show Insert Effects button on the master section, you'll see that I've got a maximizer here. And that's something I always have just to be 100% sure that nothing's peaking. So I have the 4 millisecond look ahead turned on, and I have the output level set to -0.4. Also, you'll notice that I like to have the rack and the mixer and the sequencer all detached as separate windows. By default in Reason, they're all in the same window, but if we click on this window menu, you can see we've got the option to detach, or in my case, attach, because they're already detached, the main mixer window and the rack window. So I like to have them all as separate windows and flick between them using the F5, F6 and F7 keys. So F5 brings up your mixer, F6 brings up your rack, and F7 brings up your sequencer. So in these videos, when you see me flicking between these different windows, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm hitting those function keys. Also, if I just go to Reason and then Preferences here, you'll see that I've got Load Default Sound in New Devices turned off. That's because whenever I load a new device in Reason, I don't want it to automatically load a patch most of the time. I just want to start from scratch. So if you've got this turned on, then either turn it off, or if you'd rather keep it turned on, that's cool. Just remember that whenever you create a new device, you just want to right click it and hit Reset Device. That'll just initialize the patch again and put everything back to its default setting. In the next video, we're going to make a start by looking at how we make some properly swag beats. So I'll see you in a bit.